we're dealing with the criminalization of the state, where the people who are part of the state system, the legislature, the presidency, the various agencies, are complicit in this consensus. They also are complicit, also supportive of the seat of power within that that system, so that they support their president in the same way as we support the Canadian government. However, I think that this situation is possible because the information does not trickle down to the broader public in a way which would significantly change their point of view. I mean, people in the United States are very uneducated. 60% of the population in America believe that Saddam Hussein was responsible for 9/11. Okay, even though the press said otherwise. Okay, so the propaganda apparatus is so strong that it drowns this kind of information. But I tell you who is responsible and who is complicit. It's the media. And it's the CBC as well. It's it's Radio-Canada. I know that from my own personal experience, because I've been approached by journalists, and journalists are very often very honest people, and they say, "Oh yes, I'd like to do an interview," and then 2 hours before they call up and say it's been cancelled. George Bush has insinuated, because they said that they found some evidence of weapons, of nuclear weapons being developed by Iran, etc., which is also a big fabrication, that they're going to invade Iran. They have plans already ongoing to invade Iran. Okay? Now, whether they will actually do it or not, that's another matter. And they're not in a very good situation right now to open another war theater. Okay? They also have plans to invade North Korea. Okay? Now, maybe those plans are on standby. I'm not trying to suggest that this war is inevitable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Okay? The war is something we can reverse the tide. And the only way to reverse the tide is to question the legitimacy of the system, of the project which is behind these war preparations. And that's not simply Bush. Okay, it's not Bush. Bush is a figurehead. It's much more fundamental. It has to do with the whole economic, political structures of this system. It has to do with capitalism as we know it. And I'm not saying that in an ideological sense, but, who is behind the Bush administration, the big defense contractors building nuclear weapons, the big banks, Wall Street, Citigroup, the big pharmaceutical companies, or the big agribusiness companies, which are also involved in destroying agriculture all over the world through genetically modified seeds, and so on. It's much broader than that, but again, and when you start looking at the state system, it's not simply the criminalization. I mean, it's not simply a set of individuals, the neocons. It's a much broader complicity, which includes the Democrats. Okay, it certainly includes the Democrats, and they're on these committees together. They share they're buddy-buddy with the Republicans. And the 9/11 Commission is a joint I'm talking about the joint inquiry. It's Porter Goss and Bob Graham. Bob Graham is a Democrat. The other guy is a Republican. And they're involved in a cover-up operation. So it's the legitimacy of the entire system which is at stake, and we cannot simply reverse the tide by unseating one or other of these rulers. But it's the first step, no doubt. To undermine a propaganda campaign, you have to have a strategy you have to sensitize, inform, educate the broader public on these issues. In other words, and that is not simply done. It's something which has to be done at the grassroots. It has to be done through networking. It's the kind of work which is similar to what we do when we have an election campaign. We go door to door. We set up committees in our workplaces, in our churches, at the parish level, in neighborhoods, if we belong to a trade union, we do it in the trade union. If we belong to an NGO, we try to raise it and discuss it at that level. There are many municipalities in America which are bringing these issues to the municipal council, for instance. So what I'm saying is that those initiatives have to emerge, and they have to emerge in a cohesive way. We have to also beware of organizations which appear to be progressive and anti-war, but which ultimately demobilize a meaningful anti-war agenda. Okay? I mean, you saw Michael Moore's statement. I mean, with all due respect, I think he's a great guy. But when he says that Wesley Clark is his, is his hero, I mean, there's something really wrong there. Okay? Because he said, "Oh yeah, Bush, you're a liar. Okay, your time is over." If you remember his speech at the Academy Awards. But now he's backing Wesley Clark. Okay? And lots of people in America who believe in the anti-war movement, they think that the Democrats is an alternative. It's not. So it's the entire system which has to be thrown out. And how do you do that? You don't do it through mass rallies. You do it through building up a movement at the grassroots level, which then spreads across the land and which becomes, and you deconstruct this propaganda campaign. You show that the leaders are liars, because the lie is the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. Okay? The truth is what is going to destroy these people. Because they're telling us, they are telling us that nuclear weapons is a means to go after Osama bin Laden. Okay? They are trying to justify nuclear weapons as an instrument of defense. Can you imagine? Now, very few media have actually analyzed this new doctrine.
When I see what you say happening in the civilized society, I feel afraid for us who belong to the non-civilized society. I can see 400 years ago, the civilized society coming in my continent, taking people into slavery. Now I'm thinking that the civilized society again will come if we continue to discover petrol, diamond on my continent. I feel really very scared, because not just the leaders who are talking lies. I can see the population continuing to elect those same leaders. And I'm saying, who is the civilized society? Is it the whole community, or is it Bush and his 5-10 people around him?
Civilized world.
This term is used as a propaganda instrument. It's there to justify
civilized world.
In fact, the British Empire used this same term when they went, and the French as well, okay, when they went into Central Africa. It is very disturbing that these terms are used, particularly when we bear to the important heritage of the regions of Asia and Africa, which have civilizations which predate anything in North America, going back 6,000 years. I spoke about the Anglo-American axis, but Israel is part of that military axis, even though they're not part of the military coalition. They don't have troops inside Iraq, at least not officially. But again, there are various features of Israeli policy which are tied into the Iraqi question. The project of a grand Israel, the extension of Israel